Okay. Okay, for you, everybody who might be interested in hearing Kelvin's presentation, if y'all just step up here to the front, he's got a presentation that he's going to show us. Thank you for understanding, everybody that's here. All right. Kelvin, it's all yours.
Okay, well, I only have 10 minutes. We'll see. Do you want Brandon?
Yeah.
Get it rolled there.
He's back there. He's got it ready to go.
Yeah. And so Orphan's Lifeline International started in Montana. It's crazy. In the Northwest, a state that we just broke 1 million people like a few years ago. But the preacher in Kalispell in the mid to late 90s was going to Siberia to do mission work. And that's how this all happened. He took a couple families from Kalispell, from the church there, and they went and saw the deplorable situation for the orphans in Siberia. And so around Barnaul and Khabarovsk, and there's Christians, we have churches in Barnaul and Khabarovsk, way eastern Russia. And so the orphan homes, and they look down on orphans in Russia. Anybody in an orphan home gets their papers, like identification papers, that says orphan on their identification papers for the rest of their life. Wow. And they do not like orphans. They're treated very poorly in Russia. It's like one of those things. And so that's where it started. And so I was preaching in Livingston in '98. We moved there, and it started around that time. And they came around and said, "Hey, do you want to help orphans?" Well, it was to help orphans in Russia. Russian-run and owned orphan homes. So, well, yeah, I want to help orphans. I've gone to Family Christian Bookstore over the past to Bozeman, and every time I bought something and got to the cash register, they had all these World Vision children on there. They said, "Will you sponsor one of our World Vision children?" And I said no, and walked out feeling guilty. And so obviously God was touching my heart if I felt guilty. And so I would never have thought I would be doing this. But I'd seen orphans, and I'd seen people doing things for orphans, and I thought, why aren't we? And I know down here, there's churches, they have their own orphan home somewhere that they support. There's all kinds of things. And I know we have children's homes, and Ben, thank you. I'm thankful for what the Lubbock Children's Home is doing here in America. But these are kids that are starving all over the world, and you've seen pictures of it. And so, so they started this ministry, and when people find out that you're helping orphans, you get lots of requests, and so they've had requests, and it kept growing. And it's a God thing, because this should not be happening through Montana. When I started, so they started in '98. In 20, it wasn't until 15 that I started working with them. They didn't have anybody traveling to churches to share about the ministry. And I was wanting to transition some, and ended up, I started doing that and traveling to share about the ministry. And so at that point, they had $1.3 million coming in. And I was like, really? But you can only do so much with $1 million. I mean, this year we'll break 2.5 million, thank the Lord, because of Christians in America. Now, 89% of every dollar goes into the program. The administration is extremely low portion. These are frugal people, and I'm a frugal traveler, and I love it. When I turn in my bills at the end of the month, and I've been gone for a few weeks, and my food bill is minuscule because I don't say no when people offer to feed me. I learned that when I was a young missionary in Sydney, Australia, and I wasn't about to cook. I might kill myself. And so I learned there's no shame in saying, yeah, that'd be great. I'll come over. And so it's really frugal and inexpensive. It's not clicking, Brandon. And so we got to buzz through here, Brandon. Better click. And so 24, 25 years. And so the dots, Barnell and Havara, I call that a subsidy because we have no control over that money, but that's where they started. That's when I started giving, was for Russian orphan kids. Those homes are far better off because of the funding from Orphan's Lifeline. Homes that, so a Christian in those towns goes out and helps. Kind of probably in Barnell, the kids are helped more, but it's the rural areas that are in really bad shape. And so, but subsequently, these dots represent homes in these countries. The home in Mexico is one where we are funneling the money to that home. They needed an American organization to donate to. You can't donate to Mexico and get a tax write-off, okay? You have to donate to something in America. And so some time ago, they were asked if they could be the landing spot for those funds. So I don't really count it, but they do. If I was head Hoover or whatever, I wouldn't have Mexico on there. But it's a work we're doing. I mean, we're helping. So Haiti, 2 homes. Liberia, a home. World Bible School. Ron Popberg, Vice President for World Bible School, helped start that home. And we started that since I've been with them. Uganda, Kenya, we started a new work in Kenya. Since I've started, those are the 2 works we've started, really closely associated with Churches of Christ. Harrison in Kenya was trained by Bear Valley online. All our homes are native Christians. There's no Americans there. One of our AIM students, Sarah married a guy. They went through Sunset. They did work in Haiti. When she found out I was working with Orphan's Lifeline, she emailed me, "Hey, you're helping with orphans?" I said, "Yeah." And I knew she worked at a home in Haiti where they had a preaching school where David helped work with, and they had an orphan home. She said, "Do you have Americans at your homes?" I said, "No, we don't." She said, "Good." Because where there's Americans, they want to be like Americans. And it's a battle. There's the kids that they raised in those homes, Americans come and visit and they get their phone number and they want to call and ask for money. Because they don't want to live like their culture lives. They've seen how we live. And so it's just not the best thing. They're growing up like they would grow up in that culture, but they're getting so much more. So these are the pictures I like to see. A boy brought to the home, and a few years later. So a picture of him when he came to the home, and a few years later where he's fed and nourished and learning about the Lord. And so this is the girl that Kathy and I have sponsored in Haiti for the last almost 10 years, and that was her when they got her originally, and this is her now. She was baptized last, it'll be 2 summers this summer, so a year and a half ago at least. But we get a picture of her every 6 months, an update, if you sponsor a child. And so the important things are to care for their everyday needs, provide a private education. Because if you go to public school in third world countries, not in a big city, and I've had it confirmed. I talked to a guy at Harding that was from Kenya. And I said, they tell me that if you're in third world countries, you won't get a good education in a public school. And he said, well, maybe in a big city like Nairobi, maybe, but not outside of there. He said, you're right, they won't be able to do anything, basically. And so private education is vital. That costs money. And then show them God's love. Of course, they're learning about the Lord. And so this is a boy that grew up at Safe Home in Liberia. He's in college to be an electrical engineer. And so the guy that runs Safe Home, Fatan, was an educated man. Ron Popberg met him in Ghana because Liberia and Sierra Leone had terrible civil wars and people were going to Ghana and to big refugee camps, and Ron was visiting those, and he found, John was always there, John Travis is his name, I told you the wrong name, John Travis, he ran across him, he's got all these kids, because they don't have any parents. He said, if I can get back to my country, I want to have an orphan home for all these kids. And so Ron committed to helping do that, and so this is the outcome of that. And so these kids are going to college, Augustus studying agriculture. And so it's just amazing to see. These are kids that have gone through our homes. And nurse, engineer, caterer, pharmacy tech, biologist, nurse. I don't know why. I just grabbed that slide. I found it, you know. There's no boys on there, and that annoys me. There's those other two boys were on the other side. Okay, but it's amazing to see these kids becoming Christians, and that's Baton in Haiti, that he's baptizing some kids, and in Liberia, baptizing some kids. Acts of Charity, Harrison started. This will explain to you what happened. So, Harrison graduated Bear Valley School of Preaching. He's an evangelist outside Nairobi. He sees a need. He personally sees a need. It's like all these widows. Their kids have no food. They're not going to school. They're destitute. Some of them he had converted, were members of his church, and he's like, I got to do something. He started an NGO, non-government organization, which is our 501c3. Now, he started, and by the grace of God, somehow he found Orphan's Lifeline. We are funding and managing his NGO. We own nothing in third world countries. We don't own those. It's those people, those Christians are doing it, but they don't have the funding to do it well. And so we're funding them to do it well. And so in Kalispell, there's one guy in there, his full-time job, is to be in touch with all these managers and to get reports back. And it's interesting, they send money, and so it has to be accounted for. And even the workers there have to sign off that, yes, they got paid that month. So-and-so didn't keep the money and give you 10 cents. They gave you what you're supposed to. You got to sign off that you got what you're supposed to get. And so there's just an amazing amount of accountability, very credible. Ron Popper visits some of these homes. We have other long-term Christians. There's I probably don't have that slide in here, but this is one of the simple home that can I go back? Yeah, simple home that is being built. They're $3,500. I've been showing this for the last couple of years. Somebody told me, I've been to Kenya, and that's too much money to build one of those homes. I don't know. That's what he said. All I know, and then I met somebody else. They said, I've been to Kenya, and that's a phenomenal. That's cheap. Okay. Everybody's got an opinion, but Harrison said for $3,500 we build these homes. So it's really funny, our different. But we're transforming lives. So there's Windadine in the middle, the girl and there's Faton and the kids that he took into his home with his wife, and here they are in 23, those little kids. And so he recently added another one. And so I could show you, I'm supposed to only take 10 minutes. I could show you pictures for an hour. But how can we help? Well, they started with Orphan Sunday. They came around Montana and said, will your church do one collection to help orphans? We're like, well, yeah, we will. And so once a year they have Orphan Sunday. And that's the way they were originally funding the ministry. Subsequently, people have been sending gifts. And I give you those numbers because they're pretty real numbers and they're an average. They're an average across the board. And it's going to go up because things are getting more expensive. But on average, so look at the big number, private education, $40. You can sponsor a child with World Vision for $35 or something. But they're not getting private education in that $35. It's impossible. You can feed and clothe a child for $35. So that's all you're doing. When they decided to sponsor children, and they didn't for years. In fact, our youngest daughter, Amanda, she said to me one time, she said, Dad, she was babysitting. Dad, I want to sponsor a child with Orphan's Lifeline. Oh, you sweetheart. That's so kind. I called the office. I said, my daughter wants to sponsor a child. And I've seen all these World Vision posters. And he said, we don't do that. I said, listen again. My daughter wants to sponsor a child. So we're going to do it. And he said, we can't. They didn't have everything in place to be able to really feel like the workers having good internet at some of these homes. Some of them use internet cafes. This is low grade care. I mean, no, it's high grade care at low cost. Let me say it right. And so we got cameras for them. We make sure they have internet. They can get pictures back. And so they finally decided to sponsor children. And so, but these are the real costs. And so it's $100 a month to sponsor a child. And not everybody can do that. But we have sponsored like 350 or so of our children this way. And it's really ballooned our income and ability to do more. Because this year we'll break 2.5 million, if I said that earlier. And so we're able to do so much more. When I started with Orphan's Lifeline, I knew about it for years. I knew David Ford, who was the president, and the preacher Jim Miller. And I went and I visited with them about doing this for them. And I found out they had absolutely no money. They were in debt every year. Every fall, he would take a second mortgage on his house to be able to keep sending the money to the kids until Orphan Sunday money came in. And then he could pay a second off. He was doing that every year. And I said, well, that's crazy. You know, you've got to have a foundation. And so thank the Lord, they have that now. And it's just phenomenal. I don't know if I have another slide or not. No, I don't. So that's kind of the end. There's so much more. Facebook, the one lady, our HR in the office, she posts on Facebook every day. There's a posting of things going on. If you give $1, you'll get mailed to the rest of your life. But it's nice. It's that newsletter that Bobby showed. And it just has a lot of pictures and things that they're doing about the homes and things. And so, of course, it'll come with an envelope every month, too. Sorry. But, so there, just any amount, like I tell people, if somebody, I wish I could help. I said, do you have $1? Because don't feel like you need to give $100 a month. If you give $1, I'll find 1 million people to give $1, and we'll have $1 million. Right? So if it's in your heart, if God's touching your heart, there are hundreds of things to give your money to. Loving Christian Children's Home, World Bible School, what is it? Healing Hands International, on and on and on and on. Disaster relief. Disciple trip. So there's all kinds of things. You're giving your money to the Fireman's Fund, or we're giving money away individually all the time to certain ministries, and you can't give to everything. You just can't. And I understand that. But if God's touching your heart for orphans, if you've ever had that feeling, I wish I was doing something personally, here's an opportunity. And that's all I want to share. Is that here's a good opportunity where you can know that it's being done well and your money's being used well. So thank you so much for your time. It's great to have been here. I'm glad to meet. I remember this building from years ago. So last year I was driving by, I was at the Vision Workshop, I was like, Hub City Church of Christ. What's that? and then Bobby came to camp.
Bobby, could we do something sometime where we, get like a collection thing?
Well, you guys will work on that. Outside of my time.
It's 2 minutes, right?
So thank you for your time.
Thank you for being here. Thank you for being here.
Good service.
Yeah.
Yes.
Thank